Before I begin this video, I want to say that censorship is cowardice. When you tear out a man's tongue, you're not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. YouTube censorship is forcing me and many other hardworking creators to pivot to other censorship-free platforms that actually care about free speech and free access to information. Apparently, YouTube wants to shoot itself in the foot and go the way of MySpace. So this is your invitation to join me on DLive and BitChute. You'll find those links in the description and in the pinned comment. Indulge me, if you will, for a moment. Imagine a killer who's been on the loose for over 5 decades. We know everything about this person: where he lives, where he likes to hang out, who his friends are, what influence he has. But for some reason, society as a whole has decided not to hold him accountable for his many crimes. We know he's been to every state in America and on every continent in the world. We know that he has personally stolen vast sums of money, has personally destroyed countless livelihoods and lives, and has literally murdered scores of people. As a matter of fact, he leaves in his wake such a fantastic amount of suffering, you can't possibly wrap your head around the enormity of his path of destruction. And yet, when cable news or local, state, and federal politicians and officials talk about the destruction this guy has managed to initiate and exacerbate, they somehow always manage to leave him out of the equation, as though he wasn't even the cause of all this mayhem and murder going on in the world. It even appears at times obvious and at other times not so obvious that corporate media is laying cover for the guy. On the rare occasion where they do bring him into the public spotlight, it's almost always to seek guidance from this known killer. Truth be told, he's treated as somewhat of a guru, some sort of leader, kind of like a savior. Teleprompter reading prostitutes will talk about jobless numbers, but they won't talk about who caused it. They'll report on runaway prices, but they won't even hint at who might be behind it. They'll tell you about the housing market crash, the need for TARP bailouts, the necessity for cutting Americans that stimulus check, the deployment of more troops to the Middle East or some other part of the world. They'll remind you of the vast influence the U.S. government has all over the world through the power and might of the military-industrial complex and their hundreds of bases. They'll report on the strength or weakness of the dollar, tell you that you have to get out there and vote for the next power-crazed psychopath, banter back and forth about how bad this president is or how good or bad that president is, or what party should be allowed to control the ring of power in Congress. They'll parade the most evil people through your living room by way of your TV as they tell you that you have to give up more of your rights so that they can keep you safe, or that you have to socially distance, wear a mask, shelter in place, submit to contact tracing, wait for the vaccine, stay at home, stay safe, flatten the curve, and obey the curfew. Who are these people? How did they slide into the driver's seat of your life? And why won't the media talk about the fact that these medical experts, law enforcement officials, and military authorities are all controlled by the same killer they've been laying cover for all these years? You know who the controller is. You know who the killer is. If you're not including in your repertoire of thought and conversation the single largest criminal organization on the planet and associating that criminality with all who lay cover for said criminal organization, including congressmen, senators, presidents, and mainstream media, you have made yourself a big part of the problem. To not talk and do something about the Federal Reserve is like talking about rape and not apprehending the rapist. Like talking about theft and not bringing the thief to justice. Like talking about looters and not arresting them in the act of looting, or like talking about a murder and not taking that murderer off the streets. Hundreds of years ago, Benjamin Franklin said, "The refusal of King George III to allow the colonies to operate an honest money system, which freed the ordinary man from the clutches of the money manipulators, was probably the prime cause of the revolution." The kind of money manipulators he was talking about then are no different from the ones you see today. But back then, they were stopped through revolution. Amschel Rothschild understood the control he could exert over a nation if he was able to get his grubby banker hands on their money supply. He said, "Give me control over a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws." Bankers always have and always will operate beyond the bounds of man-made laws. So to issue a decree about fresh rounds of law and order does everything to control us and nothing to control the banker murderers who should really be brought to justice. And regardless of who said this, it's nonetheless true. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. Unlike our imaginary murderer, the Federal Reserve has not been on the loose for only 5 decades. The Fed has been allowed to operate unhindered in a worldwide capacity for over a century, and it's time to unite against our common foe. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below. If you got something positive out of this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, share it with everybody you know, and don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel, grab one of these hard-hitting, conversation-starting shirts from the store. Your purchase helps me produce more content. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow banned video.
Deaf and dumb thespians take the silent stages. With their cobweb throats, they can't sing any notes, so the audience begins dispersing. The actors get pissed, they start cursing. They're tired of rehearsing. They're ready to do the damn show. They're ready to go. You know what I mean? Fuck the quarantine, fuck COVID-19, fuck a fucking vaccine. Social engineering at the center stage. About to go full circle when we turn the page. Miss Deborah Burks, you old bitch, putting COVIDs on obits and certificates, it's ridiculous. We should be enraged and irate at our newfound fate and change the current state of mind controls. As Mr. Gates pulls the levers of power from his ivory tower, he is a Zionist, a mad scientist. With unlimited funds, we need to run or we need to get some more guns. And we need to do that shit while it's possible, cause pretty soon I swear it's not gonna be optional. Are you hearing me? The wealthy be stealthy, ushering in this tyranny. I don't want a mask, give me an Uzi.